You know, atheists often ask, why doesn't God get rid of evil? Why doesn't he prevent it? Why does he allow it to happen? Now, we've been through this topic on so many times that I don't really want to get into that main issue for now. What I want to point out is an inconsistency in the question slash argument. You see, we theists have spent so much time trying to answer this question that we've overlooked the fact that the question has a major problem with it and that the question is quite inconsistent when you examine it and throw it back on the atheist with a little bit of analysis, which is what I'm going to do here. So now, the atheist asks the question. Well, here's my counter question. What is evil? You see, atheists say, why doesn't God get rid of evil? But then they don't stop to ask themselves what evil really is. You see, according to God, evil isn't just killing somebody or raping somebody or stealing from somebody. No, according to God, evil also consists of drinking, gambling, taking drugs, fornicating, one night stands, adultery, certain types of music, etc., etc. These are all considered evil, sin in the sight of God.
Okay, first off, this entire premise is false, considering I'm an atheist. I could just, stop the response video here by pointing out that as an atheist, I don't believe in God, and therefore his definition of evil doesn't count to as what I want removed if I wanted all evil removed from the world.
I mean, even eating pork is a sin. So, do you really want God to get rid of all evil and bad stuff? Because if he did, then there wouldn't be any more alcohol. There wouldn't be any more girlfriends, fornication. None of that stuff would be here for you anymore. You wouldn't be allowed to gamble. Now, we all know that these things are done and enjoyed by a lot of people. And if God were to take these things away from you by force, we all know the reaction. I bet you the next day the atheists would be complaining. They'd be saying, hey, why did you take this away from me? Give it back. I enjoyed those things. It's my choice, my free will. And that's, by the way, answers the question as well. Free will. You see, God's not a dictator. He doesn't control you like a robot, like a toy. Okay? You do what you do. And that's how it works. So, do you really want God to get rid of evil? Yes or no? The obvious answer would be no, because many of the things that God considers evil, you don't.
No, I probably wouldn't want all of those things removed from me since I do a lot of those things, even though I don't consider them a sin, although God may do. But that doesn't mean that everyone in the world wouldn't want it removed. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of straight-edge atheists who don't drink, don't gamble, don't smoke anything, and they would wanted it removed. So you can't say that that would be the obvious answer because I'm sure a lot of people would have different answers for that. This whole thing is also a straw man argumentation because what you're saying is that all atheists say that we would want all evils removed from the world. But in fact, what I would ask if why doesn't God get rid of rape or murder or incest, molestation, child molestation for that matter? I mean, that's what I would ask him. Why doesn't he get a world hunger and stuff like that? And also again, this definition of evil doesn't really help you anything because it's God's definition perhaps, but when atheists ask, you must have in mind that they are not talking about God's definition of evil. They're speaking about their own moral definition of evil, what is morally wrong to do. and not in consider of what God would see morally wrong to do, but what they and the majority of the society would see wrong. This argument is awfully narcissistic because you assume that nobody would want all of that stuff removed so we could get rid of all of the bad stuff in the world, but that is awfully narcissistic because, as I said before, I'm sure there are a lot of people who would want it removed even though they could lose all those benefits. And why would you get rid of all evil? Why can't God just pick the really bad stuff like rape and murder and get rid of those things? He is a perfect God, isn't he? So why wouldn't he be able to get rid of some of the evil things instead of getting rid of all of it? That doesn't make any sense. And no, God is not a dictator. He does not dictate you and play with you like a robot. But he will, however, threaten you with eternal suffering in hell. And yeah, you have free will, but if you believe in that stuff, then you can say, sure, I can do whatever I want, but when I die, I will go to hell and I will suffer in eternity. And if he's not a dictator, then at least he's the meanest bully I've ever heard of.
Now, it doesn't matter if you don't think that's evil. God does. And your question asked, why doesn't God get rid of evil? Sorry, you can't have your cake and eat it now and say, well, that's not evil. You don't make the definition.
No, I as a person do not make the definition, but the society does. The people around me does. We all concede in a moral rightness. What is morally right to do? I mean, even though I'm an atheist and I don't believe what God tells me to do, and I don't believe in all of his rules, I still follow most of them because I know it's morally wrong to kill and steal, and what would you have? I mean, moral society can't exist without a God. It's not, the rules came before God, not the other way. God did not give us some God-given rights. I mean, if that was true, then the cavemen would have wandered around and slaughtered and raped each other? I don't think so. They all knew that if they slaughtered and raped each other, then they wouldn't be able to, gather animals and whatever they did to survive back then. They all agreed that the best way to thrive as a tribe was to help each other.
Now, here's another point. It's not like God has left us to wander like animals. No, he's told us, don't do these things. So, if somebody does those things, why blame God? He told you, don't kill. Somebody kills. Why do you blame God? Blame the person who actually committed the crime.
We do blame the ones who commit the crime. We don't complain, why didn't God stop that guy from killing that old lady? No, we have laws in modern Western society to tell us that if you kill, you go to jail for an amount of time. And I think that kind of shows that we don't blame God for not stopping the murder. We actually blame the person who did the crime.
And now I know the atheists will be saying, oh, God doesn't even exist. Yeah, that's why there's so many videos out there always saying, why does God allow this or that?
Okay, that argument just doesn't make any sense. I mean, you're saying that God is real because a lot of people talk about how evil he is on YouTube. So what you're saying is Voldemort is also real because a lot of people are talking about how evil he is. And he's real because a lot of people are talking about him. I mean, just because someone talks about something, and I refer to God as a fictional character that you believe in and I don't, but that doesn't make the person or the character real,
Now, not only does God tell you not to do these things, he's also given you a law, a religious law, to follow. And this brings me to my second point. You see, atheists often say that religion was made to control the people. God is like a dictator.
Religion was made to control the people. It was made to keep people in line so that if they were good behaving, then they would get to an afterlife and live happily in eternity. And God is not the dictator, but the ones who made up the religion.
Many atheists and secularists will flinch. They will flinch at the sight or even the thought of having religious law. So let me get this straight. God gives you a law to implement to get rid of bad stuff and bad people, and you complain. You call that a dictatorship. You call that against freedom, and that religion has no place in politics or government. Yet at the same time, you will turn around and say, why doesn't God get involved? When bad things happen, you call for God. You say, why doesn't he get involved? Why doesn't he prevent this?
When atheists ask this, it is a rhetorical question. They ask, why doesn't God get involved? Because they are implementing because he doesn't exist. He doesn't do anything about it because he doesn't exist. He can't do anything about it because he doesn't exist. It's not a cry for help for God. Oh, why didn't he stop the tsunami? No. It's not about that. It's about God not getting involved. And he does not get involved because he probably doesn't exist. And that's the whole point.
But when he gives you a religious law to follow, to get rid of those bad stuff, you say, I don't want it. That's a dictatorship. What the hell?
Okay, great. So God has given me a solution to all bad things. Say, God, how do I stop the tsunami? How do I stop earthquakes from happening? That's probably the instances where I would say, why doesn't God do anything about that? I wouldn't ask him why he didn't, stop that murder from yesterday, because I know that that could be stopped by other people, but we don't know how to stop an earthquake or a tsunami. We know they happen, but if your God has a solution to tsunamis, I would be happily eager to listen. Please, tell me.
I mean, it's like this person is talking from two mouths. In one instance, he wants God to get rid of the evil, and in the other instance, he doesn't even want God to have anything to do with his life. When God gives a religious law, he'd say, no, that we don't want no religious law. Get religion the hell out of my sight. And then he'll turn around and he'll say, why doesn't God do this or that? So which one is it? Do you or do you not want God to get involved? Yes or no? You can't have it both ways.
Again, you forget that you're talking to atheists. We don't believe in God, so, we can't really have an opinion of whether or not we want him to interfere, because we don't believe that he exists, so we wouldn't have an opinion of whether or not he was supposed to interfere. So, that whole argument point, or whatever you want to call that, just doesn't make any sense.
You can't ask, why does God allow evil? And then at the same time say, I don't want God to be involved in my life through a religious law. You can't have it both ways. It's one or the other. If you want God to get rid of evil and to be directly involved in your life and in the affairs of this world, then you should have no problem with religious law, with the rules of God. But we all know you do. You're always making videos complaining about religion. It wants to control us.
Again, it is a rhetorical question. We don't want to get God involved in our lives, but we ask why he doesn't prevent evil, because we know he doesn't, because I've already done this before. I don't want to say it again. You've heard it before, and you keep asking the same thing. I've already answered this. There is a remainder of his video which consists of about 1 minute, but it's just a repeat of what he said before, so I don't want to address that again since it's totally pointless. Well, I think your arguments were invalid, and you don't seem as intellectual as you could have been at your age. I'm 16 years old, and I don't even have some kind of education yet, but I can still see the inconsistencies in your video. Now, there were a lot of other things I could have addressed, but Ogre the Kid has already made an excellent response to you, so I don't want to say all the things he did. For example, you compared rape to gambling and child molestation to gambling, which is totally weird and wrong. So, if you want more arguments, go watch that response, because it's absolutely fantastic. Alright, that's all for me. Bye-bye.